our top story of the day actually begins in college football, a very peculiar one, by the way, because a quarterback who allegedly bet on sports is going to be able to play in college football next year. How about this? Ken Curry, a judge in district court in Lubbock County, Texas, says Brendan Sorsby is eligible for next season, saying that the NCAA can't prevent him from practicing, playing, or otherwise participating on the football team next season. Now, Sorsby will be suspended 2 games, and Texas Tech opens up against Abilene Christian, and then they play Oregon State. But as of right now, the NCAA is fighting back, saying that they shouldn't be eligible. You can't bet on sports, and they're committed to student athletes and mental health. But what in the world is going on here? Does it allegedly mean that if you bet on sports, you can still play in college football? Can of worms officially opened up. Sorsby will play this season, one of the top quarterbacks in all of college football. How about that? All right, in the NBA over the weekend, in case you missed it, the Knicks edged the Spurs in San Antonio again to beat them 105-104. So they now have a 2-0 lead in the best of 7 series. And so certainly with the performance from Karl Anthony Towns, 21-13-4, they have this incredible winning streak now, 13 in a row winning playoff games. That's the second longest in the history of the NBA. So now we look toward tonight's game, and the odds makers have spoken. They finally made the Knicks favored in a game in the NBA Finals. Not a lot, though, by the way. Look at that. Knicks -2.5, total of 216.5 in this game. And certainly the Knicks are just overwhelming favorites to win the NBA championship, as they should. They're -500 right now. So if you think the Spurs can get back in, you can get +385. That's a $100 bet to make $385 if the Spurs come back and win this series. Let's hear from some of the participants. We'll start off with Jalen Brunson, who is all ready for the Madison Square Garden madness tonight.
Just what do you think it means for this fan base to have a finals game in this building and for the first time in such a long time?
I think it's really cool. 27 years since the last finals game in this building. I know our fan base is really excited, as they should be. But as a team, us inside the locker room, we have more work to do.
Meanwhile, the Spurs on their side, it's going to be a raucous crowd. Tickets are very expensive. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm sure you know by now. De'Aaron Fox, one of the key players on the Spurs, talked about what he is expecting tonight in the Big Apple.
You're in New York, even when they travel, you hear New York fans. So, when we came here during the regular season, they hit it. Well, we hit them first. They hit us back in the mouth, and then we just kind of weren't able to get our wheels turning again. But I think we've been pretty good on the road throughout the playoffs, and obviously this team has been really good at home as well. So we got to try to come out and, obviously easier said than done, but try to take the crowd out of it as quickly as possible. I think even like our Game 7, we never really let the crowd get into the game. And like I said, obviously easier said than done, but just try to negate some of their runs. You're gonna come in here. It's gonna be loud. It's gonna, don't want to use the word hostile, but it's gonna be hostile. So you just try to not let the crowd get on their toes too much, because obviously this team plays, and usually it's more so role players and star players that play better at home.
And much more on the game coming up with Gilbert McGregor in just a few minutes. Now let's get to some baseball, where the Tigers are seemingly getting back in the race a little bit here. They beat the Mariners this weekend 3-2, ended up taking the series 2-1. Kevin McGonigal went 2 for 4 with a home run. Wencel Perez also 2 for 3 with 2 runs driven in. They're taking it game by game, and here is manager A.J. Hinch on trying to bring as much energy as possible.
Yeah, we get to celebrate a walk-off in front of our fans against one of the best closers in baseball, a really good team, a team that eliminated us last year. So going into the off day, it obviously feels different. We've played back-to-back series against really good teams. And you can see how small the margin is. It's right there for us. We're trying to not to talk about what we're not doing or what we didn't do or how May went. We're trying to focus on what we're doing now and bring in this energy. Our fans were great this weekend. Our energy in the dugout was great. We never thought we were out of it. It was a kick in the you-know-what when they kept tacking on runs. But, man, we got the right guy up at the right time. We earned it. We had a ton of opportunities today. The last opportunity was the most important with the right guy, including Maddie's ball in play, that after getting 2 strikes where the runners advanced. So I love this win for this team, and another series win back-to-back feels pretty good.
Couple of weekend sweeps. Let's get to those. The Cardinals take care of the Reds. They win all games this weekend at home in St. Louis. Cincinnati now falls to 2-8 in their last 10, and the Cardinals keep pushing toward the postseason. Brian Torres went 1 for 3 with a home run in the game. On the flip side, the Reds have sort of hit rock bottom, and Terry Francona said he talked to the team after.
And it's actually the same. It's, when it's the hardest to believe, you have to. And when there's doubt, you got to believe in each other and pick each other up. And, I told him, man, run the bases with your pants on fire and don't leave anything on the field. I just believe that's the not just the best way, it's the only way we're going to get where we want to go. And what I don't want them to do is walking around, like, I don't want this to be a morgue. That's not the way it's supposed to be. I want them just to, because it's hard for us right now. There's a lot of things that aren't going right, but we can make it better, and we will.
Meanwhile, another sweep with the Rangers taking care of the Guardians 10-0 yesterday. Great start for Jacob deGrom. 6 innings pitched, no runs, 6 strikeouts. Also, Josh Young hit a home run. He's off to a great start this season, although probably not a great start anymore. It's more like a great first half. We're almost at the halfway point. Can you believe it? Here's Jacob deGrom on his outing against the Guardians.
Yeah, it was kind of the same approach, just try to hit the glove as many times as I could. Didn't feel like I had my best fastball today, but was able to locate sliders, backdoor to those lefties. I mean, you're facing 9 of them, and then, I was able to really hit that spot, and then it just helped with the fastball for, some soft contact the other way. So, was just trying to keep things simple and hit the glove as many times as I could. And, having Diaz for the first time, he did a great job back there. Talked to him a little bit yesterday, and then today before the game with how I wanted to approach this lineup, knowing that there was going to be left-handed heavy, and we were on the same page the whole time.
Meanwhile, the Atlanta Braves just keep on rolling. They beat the Pirates yesterday 3-2 and now have continued their run toward first place in the National League East and get a series sweep over Pittsburgh. Certainly a very happy ending for them. And Bryce Elder, who went 6 innings pitched, got a no decision, but pitched very well. Also, Jazz Chisholm and Cody Bellinger picking up where Aaron Judge left off, with Judge on the injured list. Jazz went 1 for 4 with a home run, and also said that he used Aaron Judge's bat to go deep. Check this out.
Jazz, what made you grab Aaron Judge's bat there in the 8th?
I don't know. I was swinging and missing when I thought I was hitting the ball, so I just see if the bat would have changed. That was just it.
And it did?
I mean, yeah. Sometimes you need a little bit more weight and a little bit less on your swing.
Did you ask him? Did you tell him?
Oh, no. Definitely didn't ask him, like a big brother, little brother thing.
All right. I probably want to see if he actually used Judge's bat, knowing Jazz. I don't know. We'll assume he did. All right. Phillies beat the White Sox 9-5. What a season it's been for Brandon Marsh. He homered in his 3rd straight game. What a year he is having. He has been incredible. The Angels, how about that? They finally beat the Dodgers 13-5. And Benj ended up going 5 for 5 for the Mets as they beat the Padres 7-3. Blue Jays beat the Orioles 6-4. They win the series there. And the Brewers, no surprise, sweep the Rockies 12-4. Pat Evans is with us from Legal Sports Report as we get this Monday kicked off, discussing prediction markets and legislation, always fun topics. And Pat is here with us on this Monday. Pat, thanks for coming on. All right, let's start off in the state of Illinois. You can read this article over at LegalSportsReport.com, by the way. A $56 million budget, new taxes, fantasy sports, and prediction markets. So am I led to believe here that prediction markets have to pay taxes now? Pat, is that what we're saying here? Or is this just something that they decided and prediction markets are going to say, no, not so fast?
That's what, JB Pritzker's hoping. This is a whole kind of pie in the sky hope for Illinois, which, coming into this legislative session, I heard from a lot of sources saying, hey, we've got federal funding drying up for states. So they're going to try to come back and look for new ways to raise revenue. Of course, one of the easiest ways to do that is look at gambling. And Illinois has done that the past 2 years, raising sports betting taxes in various forms, first creating a tiered tax system and then implementing their strange per bet fee for sportsbook operators. And so this year, I think they came back and they were like, all right, let's leave sports betting alone. We don't want to do that. What is out there that we can figure out in tax. And while prediction markets is the obvious one, and we know all about how state regulators and lawmakers are looking at these, for lack of a better term, unlicensed sports books is how they're viewing them and saying, hey, we got to rein you in. We got to either figure out how to license you. You can't be offering what sports books are paying a lot of money to the state for free for us. And so in Illinois, that's one way they're going to look at it, is creating a tax system. And it is, they're hoping that the prediction markets will pay. It would generate quite a bit of revenue for them. But ultimately, for right now, it's just kind of a budget list item to make the ends meet. Because to your point, so far, prediction markets are just saying no to state regulators and state legislators, saying, we don't have to comply to your laws. We're federally regulated through the CFTC, so we can offer whatever they say we can offer anywhere in the country, and you can't do anything about it. So why would a state tax law or change that? So I think what's going to happen is they'll probably sue Illinois and say, hey, we don't want to pay these taxes, so we're not going to, and you can't do anything about it. And so this is just going to add to the long list of lawsuits that prediction markets and the CFTC are fighting with states. And ultimately nothing will matter until the Supreme Court rules on what can happen. So, we've seen a couple other, Minnesota filed a regulatory law for prediction markets, and we saw the prediction markets go, nope, we're not going to follow that for now.
Right.
And so we're just going to kind of go in circles, I think, for a while still with this industry. But also of note, they weirdly finally have decided on a tax rate for daily fantasy sports. And so now there's going to be regulatory language in Illinois for fantasy sports, which there was not really before.
Yeah, they're going to have to do that. By the way, I'm not going to hold you to this prediction because it's not fair. But but Pat, do you think that the Supreme Court, before we get to our next topic, do you think the Supreme Court, they will hear about prediction markets? That's a foregone conclusion. Is that a this year thing? Is it a next year thing? Is it a year after that thing? Like, I mean, I hate to put a number on it, but I can't imagine I can imagine closing out this year without it, but I can't imagine closing all of 2027 also without the Supreme Court hearing about this.
I think there's been enough momentum. I mean, you're hearing more and more federal lawmakers calling for action about this. We've had several congressional hearings that have revolved around prediction markets, and plenty of bills introduced to say, hey, let's rein this in a little bit on the federal level. So I think that combined with the just amassing lawsuits at the state level that are now going through courts of appeals and the like, I think the Supreme Court will look at it probably, I think to your point, next year and say, okay, let's get this and figure it out. And of course, how they rule, we have no idea, because so far the courts are pretty kind of go back and forth and are kind of split on the issue, which I think sets it up perfectly for a Supreme Court ruling. And yeah, anybody's guess on what they would actually end up ruling when the time comes.
Yeah, me too. All right. Still very murky. Let's get to Pennsylvania. Some safeguards on deposits going into sports betting. We know that I think the state, was it Colorado last week, said no more credit card deposits, I think also. So this is just a groundswell coming across the board. They're not going to stop sports betting entirely. They're just going to have to make you prove you have the money to bet, right? It sounds what it is.
Yeah. And this is kind of, again, to your point, the groundswell of state lawmakers saying, hey, we legalized this. Maybe we didn't put enough protections to make sure our residents are safe and responsibly gambling, and the ones that are at risk are fully protected in the ways they should. So yeah, there was a couple pairs of bills being introduced, actually pretty tightly copied off of that Colorado package that went through. And then kind of the main one is the restrictions on daily deposits. So you can't do more than, I think it's 5 in a day. There's also ad restrictions, and you cannot target people who have voluntarily self-excluded themselves from the sports books, which kind of makes sense. And I don't know that a lot of sports books are probably doing that, but just in case, you might as well codify it. And then like you said, in Colorado, they have also banned the use of credit card deposits. So it is just kind of another state in that long list of states we're starting to see lawmakers come back and say, okay, are we doing enough for consumer protection? Are we making sure our vulnerable populations that could have problem gambling are fully protected? We're not putting them at any more risk. The lead sponsor on it said, this is something we did. We're in Pennsylvania. everybody here can access an online sports book, slot machines, whatever they want from the couch. Let's make sure it's not just a free for all, and that's kind of what they're going to do. So we're going to see how this progresses. But to your point, Colorado passed it. Connecticut passed a few safeguards, including some advertising on college, or prohibiting advertising on college campuses. So just another one of those states that lawmakers just want to make sure they're doing everything right while they're bringing in that state revenue that they passed, sports betting online casino laws for.
Okay, we'll get to North Carolina now here. They have a low tax rate on sports betting as compared to some of the bigger states, New York, Illinois, etc. I see 18% is their betting tax rate. What do they want to raise it to, Pat? Is it significant?
It's not terribly significant. I think to your point, it's a very middling tax rate. It's not, some of the lower ones like 10% or the like. But this is something we've seen in North Carolina before. Last year, the Senate came out and said, let's double it from 18% to 36%. They passed it. The House passed their budget with the 18%, and they didn't compromise on the 2-year bill. So both chambers have had to come back and figure this out. And like I said at the beginning of the segment, states came into this session really trying to figure out how to make sure they can make up the deficit that they're going to have from the missing federal dollars. And here we are in North Carolina saying, let's do this. And both chambers apparently, reportedly, according to WRAL in North Carolina, have come to an agreement. The discussions had been between 20 and 30%. And so far, the reporting is suggesting on the lower end of that. So probably just a few percentage points here and there. But still, that can be meaningful dollars to North Carolina, where a lot of the money ends up going to youth sports, 13 UNC system schools, not University of North Carolina itself, but its sister schools. And so it does sound like it's an agreement. It does sound like it's going to get bumped up a little bit. And it's interesting because, again, as I mentioned, a lot of sources said this was going to be a topic to watch of tax raises. And so far, this is really the only one with any real legs. And I think that is kind of because lawmakers are looking at prediction markets and sweepstakes casinos and still saying, hey, these guys are, offering what they're offering, but not paying state license fees or taxes. So let's maybe take it easy on the people who are playing ball.
Let's wrap it up, Pat, with this question for you. Certainly the sports betting world is very focused right now on the NBA Finals. Do you think that the World Cup, just to ask for you, think the World Cup kind of comes in play this year as one of the most bet sporting events in years, or do you think that's much ado about nothing?
I don't know. I think it will, because I think, U.S. loves the World Cup when it's happening, and now that it's here, I think it'll get more traction. And if the U.S. has any sort of run, I think that could make a big difference.
Great point. It starts Thursday. Thanks again, Pat, for coming on. We'll talk soon.
Thanks as always, Craig.